Hey folks, Rick here from LaLa Farm. Welcome to another episode of Eggsperiment from LaLa Farm. Have you ever had the problem where your chickens just seem to lay eggs wherever they want to versus where you want them to? That's what we're going to talk about today in this experiment. Hey folks, welcome to episode 2 of Eggsperiment. So, from time to time we've had problems where just out of the blue our hens seem to start laying just wherever they want to. So I learned a long time ago when we first started keeping chickens, somebody recommended to me, well, use fake eggs. Rationale being that fake eggs tend to stimulate a hen to lay because she believes that other hens have formed that nest up, so they want to lay where other hens have laid so that they can contribute to the clutch of eggs that ultimately will be sat on by one of the hens. So we tried that. Someone else then also recommended subsequent to that, try golf balls. A lot cheaper than fake eggs. Fake eggs, I don't know if you've ever priced them. They're about $6 a piece or for a pair. I've seen them, in that range. Tractor Supply online. So they're not cheap. They're generally made of ceramic or wood. So I opted to use golf balls. And golf balls I found worked pretty well. That's what we're going to do in this experiment, is show you how to manipulate where your eggs lay based upon where you put the golf balls. So golf balls are really cheap to pick up. Yard sales, thrift stores, you can find golf balls. I happen to have a bunch of golf balls from when I used to play golf. I don't play golf any longer. After 5 shoulder surgeries, I've given up the game of golf. My hens are not happy that I'm in here today. She just seems to be in a bad mood. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a 3-week experiment where we place golf balls in certain areas. Now, we've actually completed the first week of that experiment, what's called the baseline. The baseline is we've collected data from each one of our boxes, or of our nesting boxes. Each box I'm going to define as 6 nests. But we've collected data so that we know where the hens are laying for the last week. Once we counted the eggs, there was a total of 287 eggs in the baseline week. What we really found out was in the middle box, that accounted for about 41% of the total eggs that were laid. 31% of the eggs were laid in this right-hand box, and the least productive box was the one over there on the end, accounting for only 27% of the total eggs laid in that baseline week. In this middle box, which was the highest producing box, we're not going to put any eggs in that box. In this box, which was the second highest producing, we're going to put 1 golf ball in each one of those nesting boxes. And in this box, we're going to place 2 golf balls in each one of the nesting boxes. What I'm expecting to see is production in this middle box drop, and production in this box and this box increase. Some background to this is that chickens tend to like to lay eggs where they have already laid eggs. Reason being is that chickens want to grow a clutch of eggs, ultimately to be able to sit on those bunch of eggs and hatch out little baby chickens. So not all hens will become broody. Many do. As you can see, we've got some right now that are broody, but that's not something that all hens do. So we've got 2 golf balls in each one of these boxes, no golf balls in this box, and 1 golf ball in each of these boxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait till that first week, and then we're going to come back in, we're going to calculate our results, and we're going to see if these boxes shifted at all.
1 week later.
Hey YouTube friends, so we have made it to the end of week 2 of our fake egg experiment, episode 2. So what we ended up getting, remember we recall from last week when we placed the golf balls in, what I was expecting to see is that the first box and the third box would increase in production and the middle box would drop in production, and that's exactly what happened. That's kind of what I expected to happen because I've used this technique in the past with my laying hens. So in the first week, recalling the baseline week, this bank of boxes, these 6 nesting boxes, accounted for 41.46% of the eggs. Once I went on to week 1, recall this box had no golf balls in it whatsoever to simulate that there's eggs already laid in there. In the second week, with the golf balls placed, this box dropped from 41.46% production of all the eggs for that week to 29%. So over a 10.5% drop, or 11% drop in egg production. This box, on the other hand, was 31% of the eggs in week 1, in the baseline week, with no golf balls placed. Once we put 1 golf ball in each one of these nesting boxes, that production in this set of nesting boxes went from 31% to 39%, almost making up the entire difference in what this box lost. The only thing that changed was we had 1 golf ball in each one of these nesting boxes. Now let's go down to the third one. In the baseline week, this was the lowest producing box of all, or net bank of boxes in the baseline week. So this went from 27%, and it was a modest increase, only to about 31.6%, but still about a 3.5% increase in this box. Now recall, this box has 2 golf balls each. So doesn't appear to be a significant increase in the percentage, but there was an increase in both of them that I was expecting an increase to be. This one had a significant decline, and it did not have any boxes or any golf balls in it. So here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to go into kind of week 3 of this experiment, and what I haven't talked about is kind of what the difference has been and how these birds have laid between the upper nests and the lower nests. In the upper nests in the baseline week, that accounted for 38.3% of all of the eggs laid. In the first experimental week, or in the first baseline week, for the bottom row of nest boxes, it was 61.67%. So nearly twice as many hens, or twice as many eggs, were being laid in that bottom set of nesting boxes versus the top set of nesting boxes. I saw that same effect come into play in the first week of the experiment. The upper set of boxes counted for 34.2%, which is down slightly from the first week, and 65% on the bottom set of nesting boxes. So those numbers are very, very close in terms of from week 1 to week 2, because we really haven't tried to manipulate upper boxes versus lower boxes. So here's what we're going to do for week 3, and this will probably be we're probably going to have 2 more weeks to run in this experiment. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take all of the golf balls out of the bottom boxes, and we're going to put golf balls into the upper boxes, and we're going to see if we can increase production in those upper boxes. And I'm going to use 2 golf balls in each one of the upper boxes, whereas each one of the lower boxes will have no golf balls. So if the experimental effect occurs that I expect to happen, what will happen is that we're going to see an increase in production in the top nesting boxes, because now there's a stimulus in there, a fake egg, if you will, to stimulate those hens to want to lay in these upper boxes. So let's see if that happens. So now we've placed all of those golf balls into two golf balls each in each of the upper boxes, going all the way across. There are no golf balls now in any of the bottom boxes. What I expect to see is the experimental effect, which is that the egg production should increase in the top boxes and decrease in the lower boxes if my hypothesis comes true, or is tested to be true. So what we'll do at the end of next week is we will pull all of the eggs and we will do what's calling return to baseline to see if we can then replicate the same effect that we got in week 1. So what I expect to happen is the boxes will on the top will increase next week or in the coming week. The boxes on the bottom will decrease in the coming week. Then when we pull all of the eggs out, and what I expect to happen is for the same effect that we saw in week 1, which will be most egg production coming from the bottom boxes, not the top boxes, and that the center bank of boxes produces more than the one on the left or on the right. The one on the far left will be the lowest production boxes. That's what I expect to happen. We'll see if that actually does happen.
One more week later.
Hey folks, so it is the end of week 3 and the end of our golf ball experiment to try to manipulate where these hens are laying. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the 2 golf balls that we have out of each one of the top coops. I'm going to do a little bit of a data analysis and wrap this up.
All right, so let's look at the results of our data from our 3-week experiment. So if you look at this graph right here, I'll kind of explain how to interpret this. So what you see here is the 3 banks of nesting boxes. So this is the box all the way to the far left. This is the box in the middle, and this is the box on the far right. So we have 3 weeks, week 1, week 2, and week 3. Recall that week 1 was the baseline week, so there was no golf balls, no fake eggs, we're calling them, in any of the boxes. So none of these have any highlighting around them. So the baseline, basically, this is the normal laying behavior, what I would expect to see on any given week, or something closely approximating this. So in a normal week, 41.46% of the eggs are laid in this middle box, followed by the box on the right, which was 31.01, followed by the box on the left, which is 27.53% of all of the eggs. In week 1, we had a total of 287 eggs laid. Okay, now keep in mind this data was collected during the heat of the summer, so what we're seeing is a decline in a few weeks in the total egg production. So that's why I'm not using the raw egg count. I'm using a percentage of the total. So when we look at this, this is the most popular box, second most popular box, and the least popular box. So this is week 2. If you recall, in week 2, what we did is we introduced golf balls into the boxes. So I did not put any golf balls in this middle box because that was the highest percentage. This was the most preferable box. If you look at this week 1, 41.6%. Or 41.46%. So we didn't put any golf balls in this box because that was the most popular. We introduced into the second most popular box, which was this one golf ball, and that's why you've got a single highlighted line around this standing for 1. This one has 2 highlighted lines around it, meaning there was 2 golf balls introduced into that box. So no golf balls, 1 golf ball in each one of these boxes, and 2 golf balls in each one of these boxes. So if you look at the results here, by introducing these golf balls, what was the most popular box dropped from 41.46%, down to 29%. So after the golf balls were introduced, this became the least popular box, preferred to the one with 1 or the one with 2. The second most popular, or the most popular box, was what previously was the second most popular. This had 1 golf ball. This accounted for 39.39% of all of the eggs laid in that week. The total eggs was 231 for this week. Even the least popular box, 27.53 in the first week, jumped up to 31%. So the productivity in this box was even greater than the most preferred in this week. And all we did was put golf balls into these other 2 boxes. Okay, so another interesting finding was if you look at the top row of boxes compared to the bottom row of boxes, it's clear that they prefer the bottom row of boxes over the top row. So 38.33% of the total eggs were laid in the top boxes as opposed to the bottom, which was almost 62%, 61.67%. So not quite 2 to 1, but there's clearly a preference for these bottom nesting boxes over the top nesting boxes just above them. And we saw the same phenomena, even though the boxes themselves, the preference that the hens gave to individual boxes based upon where the golf balls were displaced, that same phenomena, a preference for the top box over the bottom box, was still seen in week 2. Okay, so what I did after week 2 was now I wanted to see if I could move this number by introducing 2 golf balls just in the top set of boxes, which is why this now has 2 lines. There was no golf balls in the bottom boxes, and there was 2 golf balls in each one of these upper boxes. So the laying percentage went from 34%, which was pretty stable from week 1 to week 2, 38% in the first week, 34% in the second week. That number jumped up to 46%. Just shy of half of the eggs were now laid in this top set of boxes. This number dropped from 65%, and it was pretty stable, 61, 65. That number dropped down to 53%. There was no fake eggs or golf balls in this bottom set of boxes. And what we saw, though, is that if we look at the total eggs per box, kind of returned to the baseline. Pretty similar numbers, 41.46 to 45.89, 31.01 to 27. So they're within a few percentage points. So the only thing that shifted in this week 3 is instead of laying more they still outpaced them by about, what is that? About 7 percentage points. But there was a significant decrease in the bottom and a significant increase in the top, and all we did was introduce golf balls. So what this finding shows is that clearly we can manipulate how eggs are laid, where they're laid, by simply introducing some stimulus to that hen that she perceives that would entice her to be laying in a certain box. People have used fake eggs. I just use golf balls. They're cheap. I can find them at yard sales. They're inexpensive. And the hens don't seem to matter between a fake egg that you can get at Tractor Supply for $5.99 for 2 of them, or a golf ball that you can pick up at a yard sale for a nickel or a dime a piece. And you can see the results. It works. We shifted from week 1 to week 2. We shifted which was the preferred box. This one was the preferred box, and we shifted in week 3 bottom to top preferences. These colors that we see in here are basically the percentage. So you can kind of see by looking at the colors how the preferences shifted from week 1 to week 2 to week 3. So the dark green are the most preferred boxes as we go through these. So that really wasn't too significant of a finding looking at how the boxes actually shifted by percentages. But if you look at the boxes as a whole, you can see a lot of movement in how those hens shifted their laying patterns by the simple introduction of a golf ball stimulus.
I appreciate you watching our golf ball experiment. If you haven't hit that thumbs up button, please do so to like the video. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell for notification of future content. I appreciate you visiting the farm. Be well. Always remember, treat others as you would like to be treated.